Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Bree, and today I'm talking about books. So I don't know where I'm going to go with this video. I just thought I would talk books and see what happens. So why am I talking about books? What the fuck is a book even? If you're watching this channel on your phone, you're like, what's a book? You literally, a book is a PDF in paperback form, in physical copy. It's a physical copy of a PDF. No, I'm just joking. People know what books are. I like books. I love books. I have lots of books. I have lots of Dungeons and Dragons books. I have lots of comic books. I have some novels and sci-fi novels and things of that sort. I love books. I've been reading books since I was a kid. I'm probably going to keep reading until I die. I love books. I wrote a book. I wrote a book. I'm trying to get it published. I'm going to self-publish it, but that's another video for another day. Um, so let's talk about books in general. Let's just talk about where do you get books? What are they? Where do you get them? Where do what's good? What's not? Where do you find books? Where do you find books? Where do books come from? Obviously, you can go to the library and check out books in the library. That's a good place to go. You can get books from a bookstore if you have one. Most notably would be Barnes and Noble or Books a Million. Those are the two big ones. There are probably others out there, but those are the two I know about. You can also get some books in small quantities, a small selection of books at Walmart and Target. But you can also get books from Amazon. Now, you can get books from Amazon two different ways. You can buy physical books from Amazon and have them delivered to your door through Amazon Prime, shipping and whatnot, Amazon.com. Or you can sign up for their Kindle service and you can get a PDF of a book, a digital copy in your e-reader, and there you go. You can get a digital copy, and there you go. You have a digital book. So that's another way you can get books. You can also buy them at thrift stores and yard sales and flea markets, and you can find them on eBay and everywhere else that, things are sold. I have a video coming. It's on the list, a video coming of the greatest books of all time, but I want to talk about a couple of different books, or not necessarily a couple of different books, but I want to talk. Let's just talk. I have a couple of different directions I want to go with this video, but I don't want it to get too long because I want to do another video on this later, a specific video on just one aspect of this, a whole video devoted to one aspect of this, but I want to gloss over it today. So when I was a kid, I read a lot of books. Most of the books I read were science books. I read a lot of Isaac Asimov and things like that. I read a lot of dinosaur books. I read a lot of astronomy books. I read a lot of books about geology and stars and physics and everything I can get my hands on. Anything that had to do with science, I loved it. I read it all. I also read a lot of novels. Now, as a kid, I had novels I read in school for homework, which I'm not going to talk about right here. And there were novels I read at home just for fun. So, at home, just for fun, there was one particular brand of novel I read all the time. Star Wars. I read every Star Wars book that came out. Now, when I say every Star Wars book that came out, I don't mean literally every book that has ever been published in the Star Wars universe. Jesus Christ. But I literally read every single expanded universe book up to the start of the New Jedi Order. So every single book set in the Star Wars saga, the Skywalker family. So this is all of the novelizations of the prequel trilogy books. This is the novelizations of the original trilogy movies. This is the Splinter of the Mind's Eye, Shadows of the Empire, Truce of Bakura, the X-Wing series, etc., etc. I read all of them. I read them all. I owned them all. I had a big old library of books in my house. And I also read books based on movies that I liked, like Jurassic Park, Sphere, It, Pet Cemetery, things like that. I read a lot of those. I read a lot of horror books, of course, Stephen King and things like that, Amityville Horror and stuff like that. And I did read some sci-fi and fantasy, but I didn't read a lot of it because it was, Jesus Christ, it was a lot. I tried really hard to read The Wish Song of Shannonara once, by Terry Brooks. I couldn't get through the fucking first chapter. He's a wordy motherfucker. Couldn't do it. I did. Truth be told, if you watch my videos, if you follow my Twitter feed, you know I'm not a huge fan of Star Trek. Actually, rather hate most Star Trek. Hate most Star Trek. But I actually read some of the original series novels. Why? Let's not get into it. I like science fiction, and Star Trek, as far as science fiction goes, as far as books go, is relatively easily digestible. Now, a book can hold my attention a lot easier than a TV show because I have to actively be paying attention to the book, whereas the TV show I can daydream while I'm watching it, and then I'm lost and I don't know what's happening. So there you go. It's a lot harder to daydream while reading a book, although you can. It's a lot harder to. Unless you're in English class, and then, I'm a pro at it. So my favorite books, and I have a list that I put together for a video on my top 25 favorite books of all time. But most of my favorite books are sci-fi, horror, Star Wars, and fantasy. Fantasy more like Conan and like pulp fantasy. And yes, I did read some Indiana Jones books as a kid. Stuff like that. Okay, so that's mostly what I read. I still count comic books as a type of book, and I also collect Dungeons and Dragons, but that's a whole other topic for another day. I've already done videos on my D&D collection. I've done like a couple of videos already. Go check them out. You can find them. You know how. So what are my favorite type of books? I like horror books, but I like horror books that are scary, of course, that are going to engage my imagination. They're going to make me think. That's what I want. I want a book that's going to make me think, by and large. I'm not going to say what my favorite book of all time is in this video because I want you to watch my top 25 books of all time. When I do that video, I would like you to watch it, presumably, and you can find out what my greatest book of all time is in that instance when that video comes out and whenever it comes out. So, obviously I like Star Wars books and I like Stephen King books and some others. Do I have a favorite author, you're wondering? The answer is no, I don't. 2 reasons. 1, I like a good variety of genres and subgenres and things, so I can't really pick one over any other. And 2, I don't really pay attention to who the author is. And I know that makes me look bad to some people, but I don't. I don't always know who wrote a book that I read. I don't. I read To Kill a Mockingbird. I don't know who wrote it. I don't remember that person's name. I don't remember if it's a male or a female. I just know somebody wrote it and I read it. I don't know who wrote it. I'm not gonna fucking Google it. I don't give a fuck. I don't fucking care. I'm not gonna remember their name if I did Google it. I'm not very good with names to begin with. Holy shit. At one point in time, I had over 1,000 books in my library, in my collection. I'm not going to tell you why I got rid of them. That's another video for another day, because that's a long story. There's a story behind why I had to get rid of all my books. It's a very long story, and I'm not ready to tell it yet. This video is getting too long as it is. Needless to say, I don't currently own more than 2 or 3 novels, a handful of graphic novels, a shoebox of comic books, and a stack of D&D books, and that's where I'm at.